Hi everybody, it's me again, and this is the third video in our trilogy of the chi-square operations for SPSS, and I'm going to walk you through one more time what we've already done and then lead you through the ultimate analysis portion. So this probably looks familiar to you now. You see that we have the variables created from the first video represented and outcome. And then I showed you in the second video the added data set, which went from, just so we can get a full picture here, okay, 1 all the way down to number 30. And for each one of these, there was a representation category of either 1 or 2, and an outcome category of either 1 or 2, and those were indicated again by flipping on the value labels button, okay, not represented or represented, and guilty or not guilty. Okay, we all remember that. So if we're going to go to the next step has to do with analyzing the data we've put in. And to do that for SPSS, we're going to use predictably the Analyze tab. So watch what happens when I touch the Analyze tab. Oh, gives me a scroll down, a ribbon of a lot of other options. What I'm going to do today for this to get the chi-square started is go down to where it says descriptive statistics, and you can see that yet another ribbon has opened up, frequencies, descriptive, so on and so forth. Well, most of you know from the first day that we studied chi-square that chi-squares are performed on cross tabulations, and as you can see here, if I just go over, you can see that about the fourth entry down is called cross tabs. So that's what we're going to be setting up to do the chi-square analysis. So if I just touch this once, okay, a pop-up window opens, and it looks like I've done this before, so I'm going to have to reset it. So what it will look like when you first open it is how it is here. You'll have both of the variables in this box, and here again, represented and outcome. It doesn't really matter which one you make a row and which one you make a column. As long as one is a row, we'll just go ahead and put this as a row. Highlighting outcomes will make it the column. So now we have one of the variables a row and one of them is a column, and that's how it should look. Now another advanced feature is if we go over to where it says cells, we touch that, and you know that for chi-square we always have observed and also expected values. So I'm going to go ahead and touch the expected box here and have it checked. Then I'm going to hit continue. All right. I think we are ready to tell SPSS which statistic we want to use. So in order to do that, we'll go over to the statistics button, tap it once, and predictably, first one at the very top, chi-square. Okay, so once we've notified the computer that we would like it to use chi-square as the primary analysis, we'll hit continue. And now we are all set up for that legendary tapping of the button that makes everything go through okay. And when we do, here's what we get, a very nice little chart. So this is what the information as it would occur for the data set I entered. Okay, we knew that there were 30 folks there, 30 folks with either represented or unrepresented and guilty or not guilty. There's 30 of them, so there's my N. Okay, there were none missing. Okay, this chart right down here is actually pretty helpful too. You can see that it's got represented, guilty, represented, not guilty, not represented, guilty, not represented, not guilty. And you can see that for the count, this is the frequency that we would have seen in the observed, portion of our chi-square. And if you had gone through the mathematics, you would also know what the expected values are as well. So here's how we read this. Remember what I told you in class about how the expected value indicates what value we would see if there was no relationship between the variables. So let's see how close these are. Well, 7 is pretty close to 8.4. 7 is pretty close to 5.6, but you know, I don't know if that's statistically significant enough. We're going to find out in a moment. Okay, 11 is pretty close to 9, but maybe far enough apart. And 5 is pretty close to 6.4. But again, we'll see what the test tells us. Well, the test tells us that the calculated value, remember when we did chi-square calculated value? The chi-square calculated value is 1.094. Now I already remember that if we have 2 rows and 2 columns, that the critical value is going to end up being 3.84. So it doesn't look like 1.04 is going to cut it. But just in case we needed to be extra sure, okay, take a look at this column right here, the asymptotic significance. And basically what it shows us is the p-value. The p-value here is 0.296. And 0.296 is clearly larger than 0.05, okay? We also, if there had been statistical significance, would have seen another entry down here that would have indicated it in terms of a letter. And so what we found out was that the relationship between being represented or not and being guilty or not, okay, is not correlated with this data set. So there is clearly a situation here where we would accept the null hypothesis. We would not reject the null hypothesis. These numbers here tell us to accept the null hypothesis. In the same way that during class, the comparison of the calculated and critical values told us the same thing. This is just a more fancy way of doing it. Okay. Well, I hope this was helpful to you, and we will certainly be together again soon. And if you have any questions, you can send them to me, and we'll go from there. All right. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.